Alright, so our last keeper is keeper 4.3. We're using studies wisely. Alright, so this very first slide, you actually want to write this bottom little chart. I know it's not in our typical box, but it's kind of important to write down. Alright, so basically what this is saying is, when can you make inference? When can you make inference about the population, and when can you make inference about cause and effect? Well, if you randomly select your individuals and you randomly group them, you can make inference about the population and you can make inference about cause and effect. If you randomly select the individuals but you don't randomly group them, then you can make inference on population, but you can't make inference on cause and effect. Now, if you do not randomly select your individuals but you still use random grouping, well, then you cannot make inference on the population, but you can make inference on cause and effect. And then the last one, if neither of them were randomly done, then you can make no inference on population and no inference on cause and effect. Now again, make sure you write that, because that's a big bulk of the test. Alright, so a lot of times we want to run experiments that seem worthy and they seem like a good, decision, a good choice, but oftentimes it's not like ethical, or just doesn't make any sense to do the experiment. So for instance, let's say I wanted to run an experiment to see if there was a relationship between smoking and lung cancer. Well, there's a couple problems with that. How can I have my treatments? What would my treatment be? My treatment would be, this group would have to smoke cigarettes and this group would have no cigarettes, and I'll see whether or not the first group gets lung cancer. That's putting people in danger, because what happens when they get lung cancer, they have the potential of dying, they're potentially very sick or whatever. Basically, by me running this experiment, I'm causing problems in their life. So it would not be ideal to actually do the experiment. So basically, when you can't do an experiment, you have to kind of lend to other ways of making an association or determining an association. So if there's a strong association, we can assume that one had to do with the other. If the association is consistent, if large values of your x variable are associated with large values of your y variable, or not necessarily large, but they could be large or small, but as long as they're strong, really, really strong responses. Alright, and then if the cause that we're thinking it is, like smoking, whatever the cause is, if it precedes the effect in time, and if the cause, like smoking, is plausible, if we can believe that the smoking caused lung cancer, then we can usually say that one caused the other. So again, if we can't actually do an experiment to see if causation, or to see if there's causation between the two variables, we have to rely on these other things. Alright, so we do have some data ethics. When you actually go to run a real life study, like no playing, no joking around, like a real study, you actually have to go get approved through the Institutional Review Board. It's called the IRB. And basically what the IRB does is they go over your study, they review it, they go through it piece by piece, and they determine if it's safe and valid to give to subjects, to people. So basically they're trying to make sure that you're not harming any of your subjects in any way. Once you get it approved, you then have to get informed consent from each one of those subjects to make sure that they're actually willing to take part on the study. You can't just do a study because you want to do it. You actually have to get consent from those people. And then you have to make sure your data is kept confidential. The second that it's not confidential anymore, you're breaking all kinds of laws and rules. So you want to make sure that you're keeping it confidential, and only provide statistics for the group, not for individuals. And that's it.